Time travel is a phrase to describe someone with dementia going back in time or thinking it's an earlier decade, but possibly only in part of their life. If you've reverted to 30 years ago, you often won't recognise people because they look different. So being asked to convince a husband that she's his wife won't work if he's time travelling. To when perhaps her hair was a different colour or she didn't wear glasses. There's no point in remonstrating with those in their 90s looking for children to put to bed. They just need reassurance. If we forget someone is married, we won't recognise their spouse. If time travelling, we may not recognise also where we're living and set off in search of a previous residence. Reflections can cause problems, and looking in the mirror remembering oneself as much younger and wonder who on earth it is. Barbara Poynton tells a story against herself. Her husband looked in the hall mirror and saw her lean forward to kiss an elderly man whom he did not recognise as himself, and he hit her. And she later realised she just needed to remove the mirror. And some may refuse to get into a lift as they see people reflected in the mirror and don't recognise themselves and think the lift is full. I was sitting between two men with dementia and said to one how nice it was to see his son, but he denied he had any sons or a wife. So I realised that he was time travelling to before he was married, probably during the war, and I was born after the war. So I turned to the other man and told him I loved hearing his stories of the war. And soon the two men were reminiscing. And after about 20 minutes, the first one turned to me and said, "You're right, I do have a son." I was amazed. We need to confirm them in their reality, and that can enable them to return to ours. Time travel may mean they do not realise that someone has died. There's no need to disagree or tell lies. One lady was talking to me about her brother. He died many years earlier. So I asked her to tell me more about him. And later she remembered and asked me whether I'd known. And I said, yes, but I like you telling me stories about him. Sometimes time travel goes far back to what enabled them to feel okay, and they have comforters, like young children, to soothe them, a doll, a blanket, packet of tissues, handbag. Embrace their reality, don't correct them. Accept theirs. It's often temporary.